Toronto. This is John Keogh, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Future of Food 10 by 10 CEO series. This is where I interview 10 CEOs for 10 minutes to get their perspective on what's happening in the food industry and what their companies are doing about it. And today in episode number 9, I'm delighted to have Brij Sahi, the CEO of SwissDeCode from Geneva. Hello, Brij.
Hi, John.
And how are things today? I believe you're in Toronto.
I am. I wish I was sitting in the sunny outside and burning with you, but I have to stay in the office for now.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot straight away, Brij, and ask you in 1 minute if you can tell us a little bit about who you are and also the elevator pitch on SwissDeCode.
Certainly, John. So my background, quite simply, is I started my career as an aircraft engineer, went on to IT and telecoms, and ended up in biotechnology with a focus on food safety. And SwissDeCode's vision is to help and secure the global food supply chain by helping farmers and food manufacturers to grow and produce food that is safe to eat for all of us.
Wonderful. So from your perspective, Brij, you talk to a lot of food companies, and I believe some of the biggest ones in the world. What are you hearing from them about their key issues, the top issues that these companies have, and how are you trying to address those from SwissDeCode?
When we talk to some of the largest companies, inevitably, nearly all of them talk about sustainability in the first instance. And they all talk about how are we going to feed 7 billion people today and 10 billion in the future in a sustainable, secure, and though they don't mention it, in brackets, profitable way. And this is what I hear from most of them. From SwissDeCode's perspective, perhaps what I should do is to start with what have we got to offer and then apply it to each one of those 3 categories. So most people know that the food safety testing is mandatory. And essentially what happens today is that somewhere, either from the raw material or the transformation process or the finished product, the companies will take a sample and they'll put it into an envelope and they'll send it to a laboratory using FedEx, DHL or whatever. And in the laboratory, they quite often perform a test using a technique called qPCR. It's a DNA-based test. And results normally come back in anything from 1 to 7 days. And a lot of things can happen in those 1 to 7 days. But what we have done is taken that same qPCR test and brought it out of the lab and onto the front line. So once again, an individual will take a sample from either the raw materials, the transformation process, or the finished product, put it not into an envelope to send to the lab, but put it into a capsule. And this capsule can then be put into one of our devices, a bit like an espresso machine. And then the sample will be analyzed on site and a certificate will be issued in either 30 minutes or up to 1 shift, depending on the type of DNA test that's performed. So that's what we are offering. And how does this apply to the challenges being faced by the industry? So let's first of all talk about sustainability. I'd like to give you a couple of examples. There is a virus that's killing the cocoa industry at the moment. If you read the literature, it'll tell you that this one virus is affecting the supply chain in the Ivory Coast and Ghana. And we are in a position to produce an on-site rapid DNA test that can identify this virus. And what this will do is to actually improve the supply chain of cocoa and to help farmers lead a sustainable life and have a sustainable supply chain. And that's very, very important. A second example could be, for example, we had one manufacturer say to us, look, we wish we knew if the chicken that were being delivered to us for slaughter and processing had salmonella or not. Wouldn't it be great to have a test, a salmonella test, that could be given to the farmers and they could test on the farm and let us know whether their chickens have salmonella or not. So then what we can do is quite simply say to those farmers whose chickens are clear of salmonella, we say, come in the morning, we slaughter and we process the chickens to be sold as raw meat. And those with salmonella, we say come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then we slaughter and process and sell as cooked meat because the cooking is a kill step for the salmonella. And so this way, we promote sustainability in the farmers, in the supply chain of chicken. So I think that's very, very important for sustainability. And then we talk about security. Now, security can mean a number of things to a number of people, but why don't we just talk about food safety for 1 second? And in terms of food safety, if there is a test which is so easy to deploy, which requires 2 minutes hands-on time from a factory worker or a tradesman, which delivers value, unlike the tests which have been performed in the laboratory today, then if we can have a test which can be performed at every step of the supply chain, and then we have the complete security of the supply chain. And I will give you another example. If we take basmati rice, this is something we're in the process of doing, whereby we can actually create an on-site rapid test, which not only confirms whether the rice being tested is basmati or not, but also the composition, because basmati is actually 19 different species of rice. So we could perform this test out at the collection points where the rice is collected raw. We can perform it at the milling plant where it is milled. And then it is sent to the trader, let's just say in Dubai, for example. And we can perform the same test there to confirm that what is being shipped from the miller is actually being received by the trader and that there is no difference. And then we can perform the test again where it is received in the retail stores to once again confirm that what came from the milling plant in India is actually what's being received at the retail shop. And so that really is around the security aspect. And then if we talk about the third element, which we always put in brackets, which is profitability. So if you can imagine a test that basically delivers the result you're looking for in anything from 30 minutes to one shift, instead of waiting 1 day to 7 days, imagine the impact this has on, for example, the shelf life that you can increase, and therefore the stock that the inventory that you can hold can be reduced as well. Imagine the impact this has on factory operations. And if you have a test which comes in 7 days and tells you, I'm sorry, but the sample was infected with whatever it may be. If you get that result in 8 hours instead of 7 days, imagine the amount of production that you have saved. That's for profitability.
Wonderful. Well, Brij, if I can summarize that, so we have about 3 minutes left, but if I can summarize that, so you've taken technology out of the lab. I'm sure it's the effectiveness of that is constantly improving, and the test can be done by non-scientists at the place of use, at the point of usage. That is a great innovation in itself. How can you address issues of provenance verification or designated place of origin and authenticity? And if you could summarize that in about a minute, it would be fantastic.
Certainly. So we can do this quite easily by basically, if we can take a fingerprint of the area that we're looking for, a DNA fingerprint, then it is very, very easy for us to create a test which will identify that DNA fingerprint in any sample that we are testing. This normally takes us about 40 working days to create a new test for a new DNA fingerprint. And it's something that we've already done. We had a customer who was looking for the DNA of a specific apple that only exists in Switzerland above a certain altitude. And we created a test just for that to be able to claim its provenance.
And also authenticity of products?
Yes, absolutely. So we see a lot of fraud and counterfeit out there. So we worked with one particular customer who was adding a bacteria as a DNA marker into it happened to be cheese. And the marker, the bacteria, stayed with the cheese all the way to the shelf. And we could actually take the cheese off the shelf in the retail market and test it and give a result within 30 minutes to state whether it was authentic or not. But then if we look at fraud, we know that out in Asia, we were told that for normal milk, dairy milk, people are adding proteins because such as wheat, soy, corn, for the protein content to go up. And then they also add fat through vegetable oil and palm oil for the fat content to go up. And we actually created a test which will detect any vegetable DNA in a non-vegetable sample. And we give you the result in 30 minutes as well. So we're working with many, many cases like this now.
That's very impressive, Brij. In the last 30 seconds or so, if you're up in front of 50 food startup CEOs, these are people just starting off in the industry, what advice would you give them?
The advice I would give to them is what I've read many times. The biggest threat to your profitability and to your security is a food safety recall. Do everything you can to ensure that you never have one. There are too many businesses that go under because of one food safety recall.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from Brij Sahi, the CEO of SwissDeCode from Geneva, and he's now currently in Toronto. Brij, I'd like to thank you very much. I know that you've won several innovation prizes with the team. It has grown to more than 30, I believe, right now. So congratulations on your continued success and best wishes for the future.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you.